Hello. Good evening, everybody. Thank you. So welcome to the State of the School. This year is off to a great start on virtually all fronts, and after the last couple of years in COVID, I don't ever take that for granted. So I am absolutely delighted to welcome you all and to kick off tonight's State of the School. And thank all of you for spending some time with us. My name is Tom King, and I'm the chair of the Board of Trustees. This is my 4th year chairing the board and my 7th year on the board, and my wife was on the board for many years prior to me. I was just over at the new parents' reception, and I kept getting asked, are you somehow related to the King School? And for the new parents, I'm not related. It's just kind of a happy coincidence, and makes shopping in the school store a little more fun at Christmas. Well, besides being a board member, I am also the parent of 3 kids, 2 King alumni, TK and Kat, who amazingly are juniors already in college, and Ellie, who is a 12th grader and a proud member of the field hockey team. And if you haven't been out to see girls field hockey, they're awesome. My wife Lynn and I and our kids have experienced firsthand the positive impact of a King education. And we think this is an absolutely wonderful place. It's a school, and like all schools, it's not perfect, but I think it's a place that genuinely partners with families and focuses on the experience that each student is having and really works to stretch everyone to reach their full potential. So joining us today is our wonderful head of school, Carol Maus, who you will hear from in a few minutes. Carol has impressed us and, dare I say, inspired us with her knowledge of the educational field, the independent school field, her leadership skills, as well as just her kindness and care and boundless energy and good humor. So thank you, Carol, for your direction and leadership. I wanted to start tonight with our mission statement, because these are the guiding principles that anchor all of our work at King. And King has managed to stay relevant for a very long time. It's a 150-plus-year-old school. And it stays relevant because it evolves, it adapts, and it understands that, as our mission states, students need to be prepared for a rapidly changing world. And that's never been more true than today. And King takes that responsibility seriously. Both our mission, our strategic vision, our strategic plan, all of that commitment is reflected in those things. So before I get into the financial review, I want to acknowledge a few groups of people. And first, I want to ask my fellow trustees who are in the crowd to stand for just a second, so you can mingle with them in the cocktail hour afterwards. Thank you. All of us are incredibly grateful for the time, care, dedication, everything that you do for the school. There's 27 volunteer trustees, and just this past Saturday, we had a 6-hour board retreat on corporate governance, and that was on that really sunny day when all the teams were playing. Just a small example of this group's dedication. So the main responsibility of the Board of Trustees is, of course, to safeguard the school's mission and to provide the necessary oversight to ensure that that vision is being fulfilled and funded. And I can say with great confidence and pride that our mission, our vision are being effectively fulfilled. This school is on very solid ground, and that's really because of the commitment of the leadership team, the faculty, the staff, and the support we receive from our families and the alumni. The other group that provides incredibly broad and unconditional support is the Parents Association and all the parent volunteers who support the school in various ways. If I asked the PA to stand, everybody would stand, but if I could ask the Parents Association board members that are here to stand and be acknowledged, that would be fantastic. Our PA board includes Sandy Burgoyne, who also serves on the Board of Trustees as an ex officio member, as she did last year, the Vice President Hillary Rosenthal, the Secretary Minerva Rodriguez, Treasurer Jennifer Munger, and Marketing Communications Mel McGuire. Thank you all for all you do for the school. So finally and briefly, I'd like to address the state of the school from a financial standpoint and share a little bit of the inner workings of the budget. So let me start by giving you how the economics of the school work. Our revenue is close to $34 million and comes primarily from 4 sources, the largest of which is tuition, which doesn't surprise anyone. King, like all independent schools, is highly tuition dependent and a tuition-driven school. And that's actually good news for us because our enrollment has been incredibly strong. Thank you, Nina Newman. Kudos to you and your entire admissions team. But also thank all of you. You know, the best advertisement for a school is really word of mouth from people who are experiencing it. So, you know, if you're in that 5th grade transition year and see how unique that is relative to what other schools are doing, you know, spread the word. It's a wonderful place. On the expense side, we're a not-for-profit, so of course expenses equal revenues. You can see the expenses are people and programming, exactly what you would expect. The second source of revenue is the annual fund, and every independent school, boarding school, college has an annual fund, and it's an integral piece of making the budget balance every year. And this year we're seeking to raise approximately $2 million, and we'd love for everybody, no matter how small, to participate in the annual fund, which we call the King Fund. It goes towards annual programmatic needs and supporting financial access and the faculty and the staff. And I would like to play a short video.
Greetings from Simon House. My name is Peter Resnick. I am the proud parent of a King sophomore and 2 class of 2022 graduates. I serve on the executive committee of the Board of Trustees and chair the board's development and buildings and grounds committees. I also serve on the finance committee.
My name is Rochelle Spielvogel. I too am the proud parent of a King School sophomore. I serve on the Board of Trustees and chair the annual fund committee, a group of wonderfully dedicated volunteers. I also serve on the board's development and DEI committees.
Today we would like to share some information about the annual fund, one of the most powerful and immediate ways to directly impact the student experience at King.
The annual fund is an annual fundraising campaign supported by parents, alumni, grandparents, and members of our faculty and staff. As is the case in all independent schools, tuition alone does not cover the cost of a King education. This operating gap is closed by gifts to the annual fund and the endowment.
The 2 of us and our fellow trustees are 100% committed to the annual fund, and it's our hope that we can achieve 100% participation from all King families. High participation and giving to the annual fund helps us to attract and retain talented mission-aligned students and teachers, provide innovative programming, and maintain and enhance our campus.
This year, our goal is to raise more than $2 million for this fund, which accounts for 6% of the school's annual operating budget. This allows King to deliver an exceptional and unparalleled education for our students.
In the coming weeks, you will receive a letter asking you for your support this year. Every gift matters. We ask for your participation and your partnership to ensure our school's continued success as a learning community where inquisitive, courageous students learn and live with purpose. Let's join together to show the power of generosity and the power of our community.
Thank you, Peter and Rochelle. That was fantastic. So the third source of revenue for the King School is the endowment. And each year we draw about 2.5% from the endowment so we can take some money for operations and still have the endowment grow. That's a little bit less than $1 million a year. And we worked really hard to build up the endowment over the years. As you can see, if you went back even further, those bars would disappear to zero. The small dip you see is obviously a reflection of current market conditions, but this is a really important supplement to our revenue. The King Fund, the annual fund, along with the draw on the endowment, provide $4,000 per student every year for support. The remaining 4% of our revenue comes from dining services, summer institute, and interest income. And then the last thing I should mention is we do provide, out of that $34 million pie, approximately $5 million in financial access and tuition remission to talented students who greatly contribute to our community. Compensation and benefits for our faculty and staff are our most significant components of our budget. On the expense side, we are competitive with faculty and staff compensation and fringe benefits, and big believers in a robust professional growth and development program. We are committed to our faculty and staff because without them, the school would not be what it is today. So thank you to the faculty and a special tribute to them. So I will end my part by simply assuring you that the school is on very strong financial footing, and that is really thanks to the families that entrust us, all of you that entrust us with your children and students, the faculty that delivers amazing experiences and programming, and the staff that make it all work together. So with that, I will turn it over to your head of school, Carol Maus.
Good evening, everybody. Hang on 1 minute. Here we go. It is wonderful to be here with all of you tonight. We have had a fantastic start to our year, from new family orientation to preseason, to opening week and grade trips, to the ringing of the bells to usher in the new year, to our incredibly well-attended opening parent association breakfast. Everyone I have spoken to is excited for the new year and is approaching it with positivity, enthusiasm, and gratitude. By now you've heard me say that our theme this year is Growing Together, a perfect sequel to last year's theme, Committing to Community. Why is it important that we grow together? The idea behind the theme is this. Of course, we can all grow individually, but to have an impact, we need to grow collectively. There's an oft-quoted proverb that is said to have originated in Africa. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. While Africa is a large continent and no one has been able to track down exactly where this proverb comes from, it does hold true to the spirit of some African cultures. Their perspective is more about community and collaboration than individualism. One of the strongest attributes of King's School is the power of community. This year, we are honing in on the feeling of belonging. At the opening assemblies, I talked to the students about the importance of these 3 words: little things matter. How a small gesture, holding a door, offering a high five, saying hello, and acknowledging someone's presence can make a big difference in the lives of others and in the feeling of a community. As adults, we can practice this maxim this evening. I know you'll all be excited to reconnect with old friends at the cocktail party. Let's also be sure to draw in the newest members of our community so that we can all grow together and have that sense of belonging. In the upper school, I also talked about the difference between fitting in, the things we change about ourselves so that others will accept us, and belonging, the feeling we get when we are in an environment in which we can feel good about bringing our authentic selves. This power of community is what helps us to be a tight-knit community that we are, and it would not be possible without evolving and growing together, without our common goal surrounding the student experience and our promise to prepare our students for a rapidly changing world. This same promise to prepare our students for a rapidly changing world is what drives our strategic plan, and academic excellence is at the heart of it. The plan is a framework that affirms the school's commitment to the student experience and aims to achieve unparalleled academic excellence through 8 institutional priorities, which you can see on this slide. Paramount to this vision is King's inquiry-based approach to teaching and learning, as this type of pedagogy leads to deeper student engagement and therefore deeper learning. The 21st century is certainly challenging old notions of pedagogy. This requires us to think carefully about how to better address student learning, how to support our faculty, and expand our programs. Our physical plant must remain responsive to these evolving needs and must match the quality of our program. This evening, I'd like to introduce, and for some of you reintroduce, the master plan. King's Campus Master Plan was conceived in 2017 and refreshed in 2021. The COVID pandemic interrupted the rollout of the plan. The plan provides a conceptual and flexible roadmap that will support a long-term vision for the campus. The plan accommodates current and future strategic institutional priorities and recommends renovating existing facilities as well as new construction. The areas you see in yellow represent our plans for new construction. The areas with a red circle are the areas we will address first. These areas include the early childhood wing of the lower school, as well as connecting the middle and upper schools, adding classrooms, building a campus center that will house a middle school and upper school center for research and inquiry, and provide a welcoming gathering space. While there is not a concrete time frame for the realization of this plan, the goals are clear. The first is to create flexible classrooms or spaces that support inquiry, research, and project-based teaching and learning, and are equipped with the necessary technology to meet the evolving needs of students and programs. The second is to provide shared spaces that reflect King's welcoming and open culture and can accommodate large groups as well as private spaces. We plan to connect indoor and outdoor spaces to allow students to take advantage of the King School campus and engage in experiential learning. We want to create spaces that can accommodate new or growing programs and can be used beyond the regular academic schedule. And finally, to create athletic facilities and spaces that promote physical and mental wellness and match the level of our strong athletic program. The plan impacts all three divisions. It matches the quality of our teaching faculty and facilitates the realization of all the pillars of our strategic plan. Securing this chapter of the school's history and paving the way for future generations is a core responsibility of today's King School leaders, educators, families, and friends. It is my hope that as we grow together as a community, we can see this plan come to life as we also grow and renovate our facilities. Why do we emphasize inquiry-based learning at King School? It begins with students as agents of their learning experience. When students are exploring, reflecting, questioning, evaluating, making connections, and teachers are creating and welcoming these moments of discovery, students are truly learning. Deeper engagement leads to deeper learning. Last year, during our State of the School, you heard from some of our teachers about how this concept comes alive in their classrooms. This evening, we will get to hear directly from our upper school students how they conduct research and how they apply it in a range of disciplines. At King, we call this the power of wonder, students unleashing their curiosity, discovering, exploring, searching, and researching. This work begins as early as pre-kindergarten, when our students make their own discoveries in nature and in the classroom. This same approach of asking questions, following passions, and searching for answers takes place throughout all grades at King. Our panelists tonight will speak about research in the sciences, humanities, visual and performing arts, and even in the more unexpected area of athletics. Please welcome our students, Gauri Krishnan, Amy Powell, Kyoja Duff, Maddie Beck, Bryce Heaton, and Spencer Neckrest. Up on the screen, you're seeing some of the projects and activities that these students participated in and for which they have conducted a great deal of research. All right, you guys ready? Awesome. Let's start by having each of you tell us a little bit about yourself. So introduce yourself, tell tell us a little bit about what you do at King and something that you value about being a King student. Gary?
Hi everyone, I'm Gauri Krishnan. I'm currently a senior, class of 2023. I came to King in 5th grade, so this is my 8th and sadly my last year here. One thing that I appreciate about King is how the school truly gives us the space to explore our interests, whether those be creative, academic, or athletic. Over the last few years, I've been fortunate enough to take part in many of King's clubs, extracurriculars, and sports teams. I'm a co-captain of King's Quiz Bowl team, King's STEM Club, and the King Math team, while also being an active member of the school newspaper, also called the King Pelican, the varsity girls soccer team, and the King Band, along with Spencer and Bryce. I'm excited to talk to you about my work today. Thank you.
Thanks, Gray.
Hi everyone, my name is Amy Powell. I am a 9th grader and I also came to King in 5th grade, so this is my 5th year here. I am a member of the theater club, Model UN club, and I'm also in the upper school play Clue, which you should all come and see. And one thing I really value about King is about how much they care about each of their students individually. It's very easy to get lost in viewing students as simply a grade or a class, and King really focuses on how each student is their own person, and that's a really important thing that I really value.
Hi. My name is Kyoja Duff. I am a 10th grader at King. This is my 3rd year. I am a member of the King Crew team, as well as having to be co-leader of the art club this year. I am also a member of Ambassadors Club and touring new students coming to King, as well as a member of King Cares.
Hi, I'm Maddie Beck. I'm a senior. This is my 4th year at King, and I'm involved in the varsity basketball team. I'm the co-leader of the yearbook club and digital art and wellness club, and I'm also involved in the student activities and feminist club. Something that I really appreciate about King is how easy it is to create new relationships here, not only amongst peers, but also with your teachers.
Hey everyone, my name is Bryce Heaton. I'm a senior here at King. I joined King in the 9th grade. You may see me playing varsity tennis. You may see me managing the girls volleyball team. And the position I took on this year is a student body president of the upper school. Something I appreciate about the King School is kind of what Maddie said, is the teacher-student relationships. They meet with you anytime they can, they answer our questions, and they definitely guide us in a way that is helpful yet constructive.
Hi, my name is Spencer Nekritz. I'm in my junior year here at King, and I've been attending this school for 6 years. As for activities here at King, I row, I'm a part of the debate team, a part of the investment club, and a part of the upper school band. At King, I appreciate how I'm able to get a ton of support from my teachers, and I'm able to delve into my interests in new and exciting ways.
Well, we can just end there, right? I mean, that is pretty amazing. Not only are you an incredibly impressive group of students, they actually represent the student body in so many ways. And the breadth of opportunities, just listening to the activities that they are in, really gives you an idea that here at King, you can explore just about anything you want. And I also know that if it doesn't exist, all you have to do is suggest it and find an advisor, and that can make it happen as well. But thank you for those introductions. We're going to talk about the idea of research in general first. So I'm going to ask each student to tell us how you've experienced research and inquiry in a number of areas of the school. We'll start with you again, okay, Guy?
So one of my favorite parts about King is that the central themes of research and inquiry are extremely common and crucial to both in and out of class learning. For example, whether it be on the sports fields, in clubs and extracurriculars, or classes, we make this a key facet of our learning every day. For those of you who don't know me, I have a personal passion for the environment and environmental science, something I'll expand a little bit later on from a scientific research perspective. However, it's not just in science class where I've been able to explore and develop this passion. For example, in 10th grade, in my Spanish class, we were asked to do a final project on an activist of our choice and present our work to our teachers and peers. To further pursue my passion of clean energy and environmental science, I decided to delve into the work of an environmental activist from Ecuador, Nelmonte Nanquimo. After learning about her and her work, which I found both inspiring and interesting, I was able to share this knowledge with my peers, an experience I found extremely rewarding. In addition to both research and inquiry, I can confidently say that collaborative learning is a key facet of the work we do at King. As co-captain of the King math team and a member of the math team since 7th grade, I can say that there's nothing that brings me greater joy than walking into our after-school meetings and seeing older students teaching younger students. We emphasize collaborative learning through a collective expansion of our knowledge, which really helps both the individual and the team. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Amy.
So I particularly enjoy researching history at King, and the way King encourages students to conduct historical research is to ask questions. My current history teacher, Mr. O'Neill, always reminds us that history is the study of how an event affects a group of people or even society as a whole. And the best way to research these impacts is to ask questions about them that are inspired specifically by students' experiences with society or maybe even with this event. And hopefully, whatever questions you ask sorry, I'm a bit nervous. Hopefully, whatever questions you ask and answer will inspire even more questions. And King really emphasizes the fact that no matter how much you research and how many questions you answer, there is always more information to be acquired. There's an infinite number of things to learn and study because there are an infinite number of questions you can answer.
Thank you.
Experiencing research and inquiry in all areas at King, my classes involve collaborative work with peers to find solutions together. At least once every class, I'll get a chance to work with my peers, whether it's from homework to a project coming up. For example, whenever I'm working on an art history project, I know I'm not limited by my resources. I'm able to go back and with other history teachers or go use my skills that I've learned in class with research. And I'm able to just ask my peers if they have any other opinions or corrections that they think I could use to help evolve my work.
Thank you.
For me, my experience with research and inquiry at King has really come at the intersection between different subjects. So, for instance, in my English class last year, we read In Cold Blood, which is a very good book, but also a little dark. And Ms. Patton encouraged me to discover my interest in psychology and develop it further, looking at the different forms of abuse and researching those that were apparent in the book. Also, in sophomore year, my friend Sasha Antilli and I, we both had an interest in art, and we decided to sort of discover this and research further through our science fair project that year, where we tested the durability of different paints. And Dr. Schulman, who is here tonight, she encouraged us to ask questions to different experts in the field, and we were sitting in class calling Home Depot and Benjamin Moore and asking them about the different chemicals in our paints that we were testing. And so through sort of the collaboration of different subjects, we've really been able to research what we want to research and ask questions that dive deeper than just the surface of those areas.
Thanks, Manny.
So at King, I believe research and inquiry starts with collaboration. Here at King, I found something very unique that they do, especially in the upper school, and that is called Harkness discussions. So that is when the students will sit in a circle, the teacher will step to the side, and it's the students discussing the topic, asking questions to each other, answering each other's questions without any teacher interference. And that is something that I believe really helps expand research and inquiry on the collaborative level. However, once the teacher steps in, that engagement between students and teachers is very important. I've always had an energetic teacher wanting us to ask questions and wanting us to find the answers. Now, that may be inside the classroom, but outside the classroom, same type of thing happens. As a varsity tennis team member, for an upcoming match, our coach will ask us to research the team a week beforehand, find the players we're going to play, research their stats, find any film, basically research their playing style so when we have our upcoming match, we know how to take them down a part of the King Athletic program. So yeah, that is it. Thank you.
Thank you. Spencer.
So, I feel I'm experiencing research and inquiry every day here at King, and I'm always able to, for example, I'm always able to email one of my teachers to ask any questions I have, and we can always explore what we like when we have any questions in class and look into what we're interested in. And all the support that we get really helps with our stress levels. And one example is the science research class I'm taking with Dr. Schulman, where it's all about solving problems and researching. I have a personal fish tank, and all the plants seem to be dying. So I'm trying to figure out what the reason for that is. I already tried changing a lot of the water in the tank, and I already tried different plants. Nothing worked. So now I'm trying to find out what's in my water, how it affects my plants, and how I could safely remove it. And I've already learned there is something in my water, so I'm going more into this project. I can also always ask my peers about any questions I have, and we can always work together to find an answer.
Thank you. All right, those were wonderful responses. We're now going to get to particular areas of interest for each student. So I am going to ask each of you to tell us how you have experienced research and inquiry in your particular area. And I'm going to start with a question for each of you. So Gary, you've been involved in science research since the 9th grade, and you may be too modest to share that you won the Connecticut State STEM Fair last year, as well as other competitions. Can you please tell us a bit about your research and the types of questions you've been trying to answer in this research?
Of course, I would be happy to. So, as Ms. Mao stated, I was asked to this panel to speak about my work with scientific research. As I mentioned earlier, I've always been interested in the environment, but if I had to pick a starting point, I think it would all start with my freshman year science fair project. I decided to test different methods of water purification, such as tablets that you might use while hiking, or even the filters that you find in your own homes. Over the course of the year, I developed my experiment, tested my methods, and at the end, the culmination was a presentation to peers, friends, and family at the virtual King School Science Fair. I realized that I truly enjoyed this experience, and in the fall of my sophomore year, I decided to join King's Advanced Science Research Program, commonly known and affectionately known as Aspire. Aspire has been an incredible opportunity for me, and over the last 2 years, I have been incredibly lucky to be able to be interning at Yale University, with the majority of my internship taking place over the summers of 2021 and 2022. With an interest in clean energy, my project was focused on the development of energy-saving electrochromic or color-changing windows. The main goal of these windows was to reduce the large amount of energy wastage and energy usage which occurs every day in businesses and homes. However, when I was conducting my research, I wanted to incorporate a more human aspect to it, especially as the COVID-19 pandemic led to increased rates of depression and mood swings. After doing some external research and questioning of my own, I found that the use of these windows could also be linked to a positive change in mood, which was something I found very fascinating. Through the Aspire program, I was given the opportunity to take my research to the local and state level, presenting at multiple different science fairs, both in person and virtual, and meeting multiple different people and learning about their projects as well. The idea of inquiry not only is built into scientific research, but was something I experienced daily. Whether it was determining the overall goal of my project, in this case, how to reduce energy wastage, or even figuring out how to overcome daily setbacks, it was something I don't think I would have been able to get through my project without. For example, lots of our inquiries stemmed from the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. With supply chain issues clogging up material lines, we often lacked the materials we needed for our experimentation, which led to questioning and group discussions on how we could overcome these challenges. For my first summer of my internship, I was unfortunately remote, which meant that I could not conduct in-person experimentation. However, after doing some external research, we realized that we could use computer simulations to model the experiments instead of actually conducting them. This led me to develop a new knowledge base as well as learn new skills, which wouldn't have been possible without my initial questioning. It's daily instances like this which really remind me how important collaboration, inquiry, and research are to the field of science.
Thank you, Gary. Amy, last year as an 8th grader, you were involved in an interdisciplinary research project involving activists. Each student could choose an activist under the age of 25 that has made a difference. Can you please tell us who you chose and why, and how you went about your research?
Of course. So, as you said, the project was to choose an activist under the age of 25 who wasn't too well known, and that way any research we did on this activist would be all that we knew about them. We didn't have any background information. Me and my partner, and sadly she's not here today, but I promised I would mention her despite her objections. We chose a woman named Anna Landra, and Anna was born with a genetic disorder called spinal muscle atrophy. And what prompted her to really make a difference was when she went off to Georgetown University, she required an aide to help her with daily tasks, and the state of New Jersey cut her funding for an aide. And so she engaged in a year-long legal battle which she ended up winning, thankfully. And what really inspired us to choose her was at the end of this battle, instead of sitting back and relaxing and dealing with all the other challenges in her life, she chose to make a difference in other people's. She decided that she wasn't going to let anything like what had happened to her happen to anybody else. She worked with multiple state legislators. She worked with nonprofit organizations all over the world to improve the lives of individuals with disabilities all over the world. And by doing this research, we really learned a lot about how the world works for people with disabilities and how difficult it is for them to receive funding and for them to face the daily challenges they're born with, but also to face the challenges that governments and insurance pose to make accessibility harder. And at the end of this project, we had really gained a new perspective on how the world works and how you can improve it daily, and that was why it was such a meaningful project in the end.
Amy, I just wanted to have a follow-up for a moment. So, as is often the case at King, teachers offer students many different ways to show their knowledge or to do a project. It's not just about a test. And in this case, in fact, there was no test. The assessment was very different. Obviously, they had to turn in their research. But you also had a model, and it's up there. Can you just tell us a bit about the model and how you put it together?
So the research portion of the activist was the history section. We were required to research this activist and submit a research paper, which we did. But this project was also combined with our English class, and the English assignment was to create a sculpture or a painting or a website or whatever you wanted. It had to be a physical combination of all the research you had done and to present it at a fair with all of our peers. And so me and my partner created a sculpture of a staircase with a ramp going up the middle, and at the top we made a sculpture of Anna Landra in her wheelchair holding up a sign. And that sculpture meant so much to us because we worked so closely together, and at the end when we had created the sculpture and we got to present it to all our peers, we also got to see how all of our peers presented their research. We got to see what activists they chose, what issues mattered to them, and we also got to see how they wanted to present their research. There were lots of art pieces, several gorgeous paintings, but there were also, informational videos and informational websites, which were just amazing to see, and it was so amazing to see how our classmates chose to present their information and how they really viewed their activists. And that was such a great opportunity, and we really learned a lot about our peers.
Amy, that's wonderful, and it was an amazing fair, and the variety of ways in which students showed their knowledge was quite incredible. Do you mind telling us, do you remember some of the issues that your classmates researched?
Yes, I believe there were several LGBTQ rights activists, and I had a friend who did a gorgeous sculpture of a head with planets with pride flags on them, which was very memorable. I had a friend who worked on an environmental activist, and she created a gorgeous sculpture of a healthy world and a world that was not as fortunate. There were so many different kinds. There were mental health activists, there were physical health activists, there were activists that were focused on racism in places like America, but also across the world, and there were a wide spread of issues that our classmates chose.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. Kyoja, I know that you have many interests and passions. We've asked you to talk specifically tonight about your open project in art class. Can you start by telling us what open is all about, and then what you chose and why you chose it, and a little bit about the research you did?
Definitely. Open stands for Original, Personal, Experience, and Novel. An open project is where any student gets to pick any medium that they choose and turn it into any creative piece of work. It could go from anything from clay to working with wires or fashion or just canvas on paper. My project came from the idea of social justice issues that I face in the real world. I took women's rights, racism, and LGBTQ+ rights, and I put it all into one piece. Each panel represents an album or song cover for those social justice topics. The canvas represents the light and the dark, or the good within the bad. Each issue of this piece represents not just the hardships of life, but also shows the beauty that you can find within. There is no shame in being yourself. I want viewers to understand that what someone might think might be ruinous or ugly is a beautiful thing that should be celebrated. Executing this project was a challenge, and I had to figure out how I'd prefer to portray each album and song. And to research this topic, I took what I learned from my classes and used all the databases I could from my King classes, as well as what my art teacher provided me, Miss Lapola, with all her books in her room. We took time to use critiques in class where I'd hold up my work on a canvas or an easel, because I didn't have my canvas at the time, where we'd all go around and say something that we think we should work on or that we think might just be perfect the way it was. Each student got a chance to perform what they thought and decide whether or not this should stay, this should go, and this really helped evolve my work to what it is today.
That's awesome. I have one other question for you. From your perspective, what do you like best about the Open Project, and what do you think makes it unique?
What I love best about the Open Project is that there's just no restrictions to what I can do. Like, my imagination's limitless, and I'm able to just do and create whatever I want. There's no actual curriculum to that. I'm able to take materials, I could start, try again, and I just have to make sure that it's just how I like it, and there's no pressure on how I prefer to portray whatever I do.
Thank you. Maddie, you are a talented artist who has experimented with different media to best represent your interests in activism. Last year, this was focused on feminism as well as social activists. In fact, I am lucky enough to have 3 large pieces of one of your installations in my office, and I've had the pleasure of discussing your work with you personally. Can you please tell everyone about your research and experiences?
For sure. So last year, my 3D art theme was an exploration on women's voice, power, and barriers, acknowledging the huge strides toward equality while still highlighting the hardships women face today. And this really started with my interest in activism, which Ms. Moaz just mentioned some of the pieces that I made for that open project, which Kyoja just described. And that was my open project sophomore year. And that started with a lot of research. I read a Business Insider article one day during an 80-minute art class, and it was all about different activist movements representing different eras, and I decided to create these large portraits of people who represented each of those eras and movements and their quotes, and that is what's hanging in Ms. Moaz's office. But over the summer, when I knew I was going to be taking advanced art the next year, I realized that I needed to sort of narrow down that theme so that I could make my artwork more personal and authentic. That's really important when you take an advanced art class because it's basically just one giant open project all year long. You're just working on projects that you choose and your teachers are there to support you. And so I knew that I needed to be making art that from a place that I felt was authentic and where I could sustain my interest. And we ran across a lot of challenges along the way, sort of facing this theme, but I was able to really take that head on with my teachers, especially Mr. Hughes, who was my art teacher that year. And I learned a lot about preserving and believing in your vision. And we did a lot of research. There's a picture up there of me on the floor drilling into porcelain because I made this teapot project about femininity and sort of shattering the status quo. And we had to do so much research on the different drill bits to use because we started with regular drill bits and they literally just disintegrated into the porcelain. And so we had to keep practicing and trying different ones, and finally we sort of landed across diamond drill bits, which worked the best. They didn't work a lot. I spent 3 months on the floor just like that, drilling, yeah, and shattering teacups and going to different thrift stores and buying new teacups. It was a challenge, but by the end of it, I had learned so much about just believing in my overall vision and myself to sort of bring that vision to life. And research and inquiry is all throughout that art class. You know, even when I was putting together my AP portfolio, we were doing research, and I was asking so many questions about which art pieces need to go first, what should be the 100 words that go in my 100-word limit about my art piece. And so for me, art class has been a great way to exercise both the inquisitiveness of myself and also exercise the ability to do research. And I hope that with my art that people not only enjoy it, but also my message comes across, even if those who are viewing it don't necessarily agree with that.
Thank you, Maddie. So Maddie, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that you're going to be exploring something new this year. You're going to be doing some exploration with maps, is that correct? Can you say a few words about that?
Yeah, so this year I was really inspired by this project. It's over here behind Spencer. It's a topographical map that I made last year, and I'm going to be, this is a working theme, but it's going to be sort of an exploration on the human connection through maps and what they can highlight about humanity.
Thank you so much. Bryce, I know that you are a musician, in particular a trumpet player, and you have an interest in jazz. Last year, I was quite impressed by your performance at a school concert. Can you tell us about how research and inquiry played a role in your performance?
Yes, for sure. So in band class, instead of just picking up the instrument right away and reading off the sheet music, Mr. Mendez, my awesome band teacher, sat us all down and gave us this piece of music called Night in Tunisia by Dizzy Gillespie. But instead of playing it, he first wanted us to research the artist. And at first we were a bit confused because we usually get the sheet of music, start grinding out, playing with each other. However, when we started researching about Dizzy Gillespie, he turned out to be the first jazz ambassador of the United States of America. We got to learn about the African-American history in jazz, especially in the 1920s, and learned how they spread their message across the entire world, actually. In fact, we learned that when playing trumpet, you're not allowed to puff your cheeks at all. You gotta keep them in tight. This guy did not listen to the rules, completely puffed his cheeks all the way out. So while learning more serious history about his impact in the jazz world and the civil rights world for African-American rights, we got to learn some fun facts along the way. And basically, pairing the song with the research we did behind it made us honestly, I believe, play better because we could play the way he wanted us to play while also knowing the deeper meaning behind that piece and behind that artist.
Thank you. So I have another question for you. Last year, you and another student were awarded the Tom Main Liberal Arts Fellowship. This research project is awarded to a team of 2 outstanding sophomore students who, working with a faculty mentor, research, write, and present a paper on liberal arts topic of major global interest. Can you say just a few words about your research?
I totally can. So our, what if I said no? That'd be a little awkward. So basically, our guiding question was, in what ways does global democracy actually affect global, how does neo-fascism affect global democracy? Now, this is a big question, and we had an advisor to help us along the way. But we read, my partner and I, my cousin Tommy Heaton, we read journal articles, we read books, we watched videos, documentaries, movies, and the best thing about our research, we got to get into the field and interview some experts. We got to interview Dr. David Fry, who is a professor at West Point, and we even got the opportunity to have an interview over Zoom with a current Proud Boy member, which was a little eye-opening to say the least. But because of King, we actually got to have those connections and resources, and we got to actually engage with a current neo-fascist, which is a pretty eye-opening experience, an awesome experience. But through this project, it was very cool because we got to do research across all different platforms, social media platforms, handheld platforms like books, articles, but also on the TV like documentaries and movies. And through all this research, we got to present in front of the entire school and let everyone know our message. And it was awesome to see how a lot of students were very interested in our topic and interested in the field after that. And that was basically an awesome experience on how King had us do research and inquiry and then show it to all the students so then we could collaborate with others on the topic.
Thank you. That's great. And Spencer, I know that you're a serious rower. Typically, when one refers to research, athletics would not automatically come to mind. Can you please describe the ways in which research comes into play in the sport of crew and how it has contributed to your success?
Yeah, so research and inquiry is inside and outside the classroom, and it's all over crew because crew is a very science and physics-based sport, mainly because of the water involved. There's drag, which is a big factor of the speed of the boat, and that is caused by the way the water slows down the boat. And then the weight of the people inside the boat, which almost adds up to a ton, can push down the boat and cause more drag. So strength and weight to strength ratio is a huge part of the sport. And there's been lots of research on how to optimize the boat and the stroke, and our coaches help to maximize our efficiency. And we're always asking questions, whether on water or land, because technique is so important to keep drag down and our speed up. Another way we experience research and inquiry and crew is that we always look at our races beforehand. We walk the course because going to races blind can cause precious seconds, and it's a really competitive sport, so that can make the difference between 3rd place and 7th place. And yeah.
Thank you. And Spencer, one more question for you. King School encourages students to explore many areas of interest, and you mentioned that in addition to rowing and playing in band, you are on the debate team. Are there any connections that you can make between the research you do for the debate team and the research you do for crew?
Yeah, there are. Crew and debate are both about asking questions in some way, shape, or form. Crew is all about being given a way to improve our technique by coaches, and then we ask more specific questions to get the technique down even better. And debate gives us questions that we have to research contentions for, big, overarching world questions, and our contentions are our reasons. And we have to have a claim better than the other side, but we also have to be able to argue for both sides. And both of them have the similarity of that they start with a basic question, and then I can go into much more specifics with my research and the questions I ask.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This last one is just maybe one of you can take it if you want to. And I feel like it's been answered in different ways. But the question is, what do you think is the value or the advantage of learning in the way that you've described, learning through questions and research and following your passions? How is that more effective than other ways of learning? Anybody want to take a stab at that? Bryce? Great.
Yeah, so what we learn through research and inquiry does not only stick and is not only used to study for a test, but it actually draws us students in more. It gets us more involved in the classroom, more involved in the topic, and more wanting of an answer. And obviously, expanding your knowledge is going to help you expand your brain, gain more learning. But it's really the engagement factor. I think it's the engagement between asking questions with other friends. It's the engagement between having a teacher who wants you to go to them if you need help, or just wants you to go to them to just have a conversation, talk about something, talk about an interest you have that you want to learn more about. Like my advisor for the Tom Main Fellowship, Miss Rossler. Unfortunately, she's not one of my curriculum teachers now, but I still find her in the hallways and we just talk about neo-fascism or talk about a current conflict. So I feel like that is the huge thing that research and inquiry brings for us students.
Thank you. Before I thank you and let you get off the stage, I'm going to start by saying, I feel so unbelievably proud of these students. I find it incredible the way, not just the work you've done, but your ability to explain it and talk to a big audience. So would everyone please join me in thanking our panelists? You totally rocked. Totally. I hope this gives you all a glimpse into our approach to teaching and learning and why we're confident that it leads to deeper understanding, relevant learning, and meaningful connections. And now as the students come off the stage, we're going to ask Bryce to stay behind to perform for us one of the pieces he has researched and prepared. Bryce will be accompanied by Garrett Mendez, chair of our Performing Arts Department and talented musician himself. Accompanying them are Matthew Dettori on piano, Victor Ramirez on bass, and assistant band director at King, Tommy Weeks, on tenor sax. They'll be performing a piece Bryce researched thoroughly, Night in Tunisia by Dizzy Gillespie. Thank you, students. You may go. Thank you so much. Bryce, amazing. And I can't talk about this work that all of our students do without a shout out to the faculty of our school. It is unbelievable. It's a combination of their wisdom, their passion, their inspiration, and frankly, their love of children and adolescents. This school would not be what it is, just as Tom King said at the very beginning. Those words, we can amplify them over and over and over again. King School is King School because of the faculty and staff. So thank you so much. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. I look forward to seeing you at the reception, which will be in the Academic Center in the upper school. Thanks so much for coming, and thank you.